Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Freakin Uncultured Podcast, where I'm your host, Chandler. We're joined by my buddy Andy, who is also a host as well. That sounded a little goofy, but it is what it is. So, but today, this is our second episode. Uh, so today we're going to be talking about, some of the games that have inspired us. Andy and I would say, are definitely both creative people. We have projects that we would like to do outside of this podcast. Um, and those ideas did not just come out of thin air. They were inspired by different things. So specifically today we're going to talk about the games that inspired us, whether that be gameplay mechanics, story mechanics, character development, stuff along that line. So Andy, you
Cool.
have anything you want to say to anybody today?
No, I'm just glad. I can't believe we're already on the second episode, man. It's just like we've been talking about this for years, and it's all of a sudden, now we're finally doing it. So I'm glad. But no, I'm excited. I'm kind of intrigued. Like this was a topic that kind of stunned me for a sec, just because I was like, inspiration. Like, where do we? Because again, we've talked numerous projects. Like, we've come up with probably like a phone book's worth of like ideas. Like, we've done so many different just goofy oddball ideas. So it's like, where do we start with this? So this one kind of stuck me for a little bit, but I'm excited to see what you have, and hopefully I got some good stuff to bring to the table too. So
All right. And nobody mind that if you were able to hear that. That was my timer telling me to take my medicine, but I can wait to take my medicine. It'll be okay. All right then. Well, Andy, would you want to get us started off, or do you want me to get us started off?
I'm gonna let you set the bar here. So I'm gonna let you go first on this one. This is
All
your
right.
episode. I'm gonna let you start off.
Okay, so I'm going to start from the beginning then. So the franchise that got me into video games, the first video game I actually ever played, and I promise you, if you are a viewer of this show going forward, you will hear me talk about this franchise a lot. You've already heard me talk about it just in our live stream, and you're going to hear it in the first episode as well whenever that goes live. So the franchise that got me into video games, and it was the first game I ever played, and that would have been the Crash Bandicoot franchise. Of course, starting with the first one, eventually getting the second one, and then getting the third one. So these games are a massive inspiration to me because they kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? They inspired the way that I like my wacky and larger than life characters. Crash Bandicoot was inspired by Looney Tunes, and so it definitely has that Saturday morning cartoon feel. And growing up, I actually wanted to be a cartoonist, and
There you go.
part of that reason was because of Crash Bandicoot and just its wacky and zany characters. A lot of them have stuck with me. Uh, since childhood. I have a Crash Bandicoot tattoo up here.
Mm-hmm.
I have a tattoo of Uka Uka, the one of the main antagonists of the franchise, on my leg. It is a franchise that has inspired me in so many ways, but specifically just in the cartoonishness of some of the stuff that I've come up with over the years.
Okay. I mean, that's fair. Like, to be honest, like when you started talking, the first thing I thought is, oh yeah, we're definitely gonna be bringing up Crash. Like,
Oh yeah, 100%. Like I said, anybody who sticks around and listens to this show for a while is going to hear me talk about Crash Bandicoot a lot. So,
I mean, you're not wrong. Again, like I definitely know that franchise definitely has a place in your heart for sure. So not wrong there. Well, I guess for my first one, I'm gonna kind of jump around a little bit,
okay.
but I'm gonna start with kind of a more modern title. I was thinking of doing the same thing you did, and it was like, what was one of the first games I played, and what was one of those? And to be honest, that would be Mario. I grew up playing the original Mario on the NES. I'm dating myself a little bit there, but
It's
I didn't want
okay.
to I didn't want to pull out that cartridge because I mean it's Mario. Like we all know Mario. I mean he's still a powerhouse in this day and age. So
Mm.
that would be one I would absolutely say inspired me. But I wanted to do stuff a little bit different. I didn't want to. To me, that's a gimme. Like in my opinion, like that's a freebie. I didn't want to go that route. So I was really kind of thinking a little bit and tried some different things. And I'm gonna start off with one that actually came out. I want to say 11 years ago now. It's actually an older franchise, but this is one of the newer ones, and it kind of just instantly held my attention. But I am going to throw Killer Instinct as one of my
There we
first
go.
big inspirations. So I grew up playing the Super Nintendo copy, the Nintendo 64. I have those here today, but I really wanted to call this one out because when this one came out for the Xbox One, like this made my decision for that platform. Like when this got announced, it was, the PS4 was just announced, the Xbox One was announced, and it was which system are you getting? And that was kind of a big topic for a lot of people. I mean, hell, even Big Bang Theory did an episode on it where Sheldon had to decide, do I get the PS4 or the Xbox One? And it was like a whole endeavor for them. When I saw this title got announced, that made my decision for me. I didn't have to decide. This was the game that was instantly like, that's a day one purchase for me. And the inspiration there is I actually have a degree in like game design, 3D modeling, 3D animation. And I've always wanted to make my own game. And when this one came out, I actually wanted to make my own fighting game. So I was really digging into characters. I was looking in the stage design, and it was something I was going to do independently because I didn't know of anybody else who would really want to do something to this level. But I'm also really particular about how I like fighting games. So I don't know if I don't know if this would just be a chase for perfection, and I don't know if it would something that would ever actually come out, but I absolutely love this franchise because it pushed me to do something I never did before, but I also got inspired to compete with this one. Like me and one of my other buddies, we would actually go to professional tournaments and we were competing with some of the best players in the world in this game.
Okay.
And needless to say, that didn't go as well as we would hoped, but it was fun, and I got to make some great memories. I got to meet a lot of new people that I never would have met. And yeah, this one, this franchise, I would love to see a second one of the KI2, the new version, but I don't know if that'll ever happen. But this is one that has definitely kind of put me in a different situation that I wouldn't have done. I would never have toured and gone on tournaments for Mortal Kombat or any of these other games like Killer Instinct. This one definitely has a place in my heart, but this one has inspired me to do a lot of different things when it comes to video games. So that's gonna be my first pick.
Man, I'm just imagining you seeing the launch lineup for the PS4 and the Xbox One, and like the PS4 comes along and you're just like, I don't want to play Knack.
Man, like I've got stories for days on it for sure, but when the Xbox One came out, I remember the big announcements were obviously like Forza and stuff like that. And me, I'm a big car guy, so like Forza was already like, that was pushing me to that that was the right direction. But I remember watching the I think it was E3 when it was still E3 when it got announced. But I remember hearing the dun 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 dun, and I was like, there's no way, like there is no way. Hold up. And then the logo popped up, and I was watching it with a buddy of mine, and I literally looked over, and I was just like, I know what I'm getting now. Like, there's no question. Like, I have to get that. So.
No, fair enough. Fair enough. So, all right. Well, leading on to one of my next inspirations. So, we just talked about the cartoonishness of Crash Bandicoot, and how it inspired me and everything for my characters to be, like I said, very cartoonish. Growing up, wanted to be a cartoonist. But that's the thing, though, is starting out, especially whenever I was younger, all of my stuff was, that I came up with, of course, wasn't good because I was a child. But two, it was very episodic in nature. There was no continuity with any of the stuff that I had in story and character, no character development, obviously. So around the time, let's see, so I would have been in high school, and this is whenever I really started writing. I'm, writing short stories, and I actually have a couple of published short stories out there as well.
Yep.
And so this is, that was around that time, and something that really inspired me for, story-driven content and character development would have been The Last of Us, specifically the first one. I could not find my PS3 copy, so I just grabbed my PS5 copy, but the PS3 is the one that I put the most mileage on. I think I played the PS3 copy of that game 12 times.
I mean, it was such a good game.
Oh, yeah, just the The story's fantastic. The character development is great too, especially the dynamic between Joel and Ellie, and the struggles that, Joel comes from and everything. I don't want to, spoil it for anybody who potentially hasn't played it or watched the HBO Max show. um,
Yeah.
yeah, so I don't want to potentially spoil it because, especially because the show is ongoing. But I think, and one of the big things about this game, though, I remember whenever it came out, was the ending and how divisive it was. But man, I loved it, and it is
Mm-hmm.
still to this day one of my favorite endings, and I don't think they could have ended it any better.
Agreed. Like
And
that's such a good franchise, like overall.
oh yeah, and that's the thing too is also, whenever I, you know, would write a story, the things that I would struggle with the most were my endings. This is a game that really inspired me to start getting my endings right, and
Okay.
to really look at the bigger picture to see how I was going to put a bow on everything. So,
There you go. I mean, that's when it comes to stories, man. That's a hell of a bar to try and reach. Like that is a phenomenal story, and I
oh yeah,
know as controversial as it is, like I love the second one as well, and I think we both agree on that.
hmm
Um,
man. Honestly, we should just make an episode about the second one at some point because I have a ton of stuff to say about it and how I think it is way better than what people give it credit for.
Agreed. I think there's definitely a personal bias that comes to that, and I mean I understand. I see that the hate for it, but it's like I think
Oh,
that's
I do
such a
too.
clever story and a perfect way to see the perspectives. Like no, I'm with you. Like that's the writing on that game was incredible. I loved the second one, and I know this is kind of going off topic, but I've been seeing a lot of obviously with Naughty Dog announcing their new game Intergalactic,
Yep.
there's everything's just blowing up on that one. But I've been seeing a lot of people going back and rehashing their opinions on Last of Us 2, and surprisingly, just the negative reception it received at that time. And it's like I don't understand it. Like even though it reviewed amazingly and all that, just
hmm
people didn't like the story, and I get it, but man, it was so well done, and I disagree. So, but
Those are
that's
the
my 2 cents.
those are the smooth brain people.
Well, I'm not gonna touch that one. That one's not on me. I don't want to call anyone
You
out.
know
So
what? I only make brave statements on this podcast.
fair
So
enough. Fair enough.
that smooth brain people. No,
Fair
I'm kidding.
enough.
I'll say this: if Last of Us Part Two was not your favorite for obvious reasons, I understand completely because those reasons really pissed me off too. Whenever I played the game, everybody's entitled to their own opinion. Though, if you don't like The Last of Us Part Two, more power to you. So,
Yeah, and that's my thing is like to each their own. I'm big on that,
yep.
but yeah, to me that very well done. I loved it. So, uh, do you still have any more? Do you have anything
Yeah,
else you want to cover on it?
go ahead and hit us up with your next game, man.
Okay, so uh, needless to say, we've kind of focused on games more than anything, but we talk about movies and
hmm
different types of genres and all that stuff. And the one thing we definitely have together is horror.
Oh
We
yeah,
are
one
we are
hundred percent.
both big horror guys, and I don't think you're gonna be surprised by this next pick in any way, shape, or form.
I think
But
I know where this is going
I think you
already.
know where it is too, but I think I have a little bit of a curveball in there. But
Okay.
I'm going to throw these two in my
Oh.
next. So,
Oh.
like, I have, this is just like the first couple that I grabbed. But I have a whole selection of these games that I could really dig into, man. I mean, I have all of the Silent Hills, the Fatal Frames, Parasite Eve, Evil Within 2. Those were a couple I was going to grab. Um, but it just like, when it comes to some that stand out, I can't pick particular titles. Like, I can't say Clock Tower 3 is better than other ones. It's just like, these these games as a whole, all of them I've enjoyed thoroughly. I'm very easy to please when it comes to stuff like this. Like I'm not gonna scrutinize and nitpick any of the story. Like if I enjoy it, I enjoy it.
hmm
And all of these games I've thoroughly enjoyed. Like I said, the Fatal Frame, Parasite Eve 1 and 2, the original Clock Tower. I just got my limited run copy of Clock Tower 1, that remastered.
Oh, nice, nice.
So, uh, but I feel like this is kind of help kind of helped me with my obsession with horror. I mean, I grew up watching classic horror movies, you know, so like I grew up with Nightmare on Elm Street and Candyman and, you know, all of those, Halloween and stuff like that. And it's like these give me that extra itch that I don't feel like the movies can give. I still think one of my best horror experiences is Resident Evil 7 because I played that in VR. And
Yeah.
like I still stand to this day that is one of the best horror experiences because there's a whole different perspective when you're being chased by something and you're looking in a hallway and you look left or right and you're looking down that hallway. It's not a thing like you're holding a controller and you're looking through a screen and then you turn the camera left or right.
Mm-hmm.
It's something different when you turn your head and you see that hallway. It's like that's next level horror in my opinion. So that's one of the best horror experiences I've had. But it was really hard to kind of pick particular horror titles to make that, you know, to make that stand out. Like I said, Silent Hill are one of my favorite franchises. So yeah, I'm gonna just say like those games have kind of inspired me to really just dig more into horror. I mean, I love, you know, as well as I do, like I love Halloween. I love going out. I like making decorations. I like creating that atmosphere, and all of those games have helped like kind of fuel that fire. I love seeing that stuff. With the remake, we talked about the atmosphere in the remake too. Like, I don't know, it's something I have more appreciation for and something I look for because of games like that. So,
Man, I'm not gonna lie. That curveball did catch me off guard. I wasn't expecting Clock Tower 3 to get pulled out.
yeah, I figured that would be the one that would catch you off guard.
Man, that's the thing though is you know my experience, and I'll let you know for the rest of the games that I have in my stack over here. There's not any horror games in there, but that's because you know a lot of my inspiration for horror and everything came from the movies I watched growing up, and also you know my dad was a big Stephen King fan, and he you know he has a lot of like he even has some first edition books
Oh
still
wow.
to this day. Yeah, and I'm sure they go for insane amounts of money.
Oh yeah.
So I grew up reading Stephen King, you know, watching his movies for better or for worse,
Oh yeah.
and various other, you know, film franchises. So, but whenever it comes to horror in video games, that is such a newer concept for me. I say newer, but you know, I would say within the past. When did Resident Evil 7 come out?
Oh
In
god.
2017,
That
2016.
sounds right.
So that's
It all blends together after a while.
Yeah, so that would be about the time that my, you know, delving into horror games really started. I had played some before that, but that's whenever I really started getting into it. But sadly, a lot of these games and these horror classics are not readily available to the public, and that's something that has hindered me for a long time now. Uh, but now I have a Steam Deck, and that's all I'm going to say.
There you go. I mean, I'm with you. Like I grew up, my family watched these horror movies. I mean, we would go to Blockbuster and all that stuff, and we'd go pick out, you know, horror movies and just different movies to watch. But I also grew up watching like Twilight Zone and Tales
Yep,
from the Crypt, and you know, these were things we caught on TV every single week. It was an every week thing. We didn't miss it.
yep,
So the video games, like they just kind of became an extension of that. Like this is something like, again, like I've been doing this for years. I played the original Resident Evil on Sega Saturn. I know you've heard me talk about the video game D.
yep,
Like these are horror games that is like, I couldn't get enough of it. Like actually the original Alone in the Dark.
yeah.
Not It was a good game. It's very dated for its day, like today's age. But like I don't know. I account my obsession with horror. I think it started with movies,
hmm
but this is kind of added fuel to those fires. So
No, that's fair. I can agree with you on that. You know, especially with my horror game stuff being more recent. It is, and especially with my playthrough of Silent Hill 2 remake here recently, man, that has really added fuel to that fire, and has inspired me in so many different ways now about you know how I want to tackle some of the horror projects that I have in mind.
yep,
So,
cool. Yeah. So what's your next one?
man, my next one is and I want to you know say this one is actually not my favorite in this franchise, but it was my first interaction with this franchise and what kickstarted you know a whole different aspect of world building and, lore and the stories that I create and that I write. And this is one that definitely inspired that world building aspect, and that is Metal Gear Solid 1.
I mean, yeah.
Man, this game, I still revisit the first one all the time. I love the first Metal Gear Solid. 2 is my personal favorite.
Hmm.
Nothing can beat Sons of Liberty, and Sons of Liberty is incredibly relevant today. um,
Sadly, sadly.
yeah. But Metal Gear Solid 1, just, you know, the larger than life story, the larger than life characters, even the villains all just stood out. My mind was blown whenever Psycho Manus was like, I see you like Castlevania Symphony of the Night. And I was just like, how did you know?
That
uh,
was such a cool thing too. Obviously, like
oh, yeah.
it's a more of a common thing now, but having to take your controller and plug it in the player too is like.
Yep. Oh, just that blew my mind as a kid, man.
Hmm.
It absolutely just. Uh, and so yeah, no, and if you know about Metal Gear, it has a vast history and story to it that goes outside of games. It's Kojima has a knack for you know putting stuff in the mainstream media, even though it's never had an adaptation outside of video games. Everybody knows what Metal Gear Solid
Oh
is,
yeah.
and it's for really, really good reason.
No, I mean, like you said, Kojima is one of those that is known like he's doing more than just world building.
Yes.
Like
Yep.
he's world building for sure, but it's like everything is so relevant and everything is so in your face. Like yeah, like you said, everybody knows what Metal Gear is.
Yep. No, that's part of the reason also that I recently got into One Piece, man. Like, I mean, you've been hearing me talk about One Piece plenty this year,
Mm-hmm.
because I just started it this year and I'm already caught up. But Oda is a genius in his storytelling and world building, and that was what pulled me into that. And I understand if anybody doesn't have the time to sit and watch over 1,100 episodes, but if you do, you should. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, I've been hearing like here lately. One Piece is. I mean, obviously it's always been big, but I've been getting
Hmm.
a lot of different people that are like, you need to check it out, and it's like, I don't have time for 1,000+ episodes, but we'll see. So,
Dude, it really did blow me away. I'm a huge fan of it. So,
oh yeah, oh yeah.
but anyway, what you got next, man?
All right, so this one I'm gonna start off with a story. So, when I was in high school, I took a programming class,
Okay.
and the programming language was called QBasic.
Hmm.
That's how old this story is. Like, granted, QBasic was on the out. Like, it was, they just updated to, I think it was just Basic at that point, is what they called it, if I remember correctly. I don't know. QBasic was a very old programming language. And I, like, I'm not big on programming. I don't like sitting down and typing out code all day long. It's not fun. It's not enjoyable to me. But something about QBasic I just really enjoyed. Like it was simple. It was very easy to do. Um, and it's not anything complicated, like especially what we see nowadays. Like coding is just a nightmare. Like kudos to the people that can do it. I don't have the patience to do that. But with QBasic, we obviously, I was in a class, we were learning and all sorts of stuff, and I just kind of ran with it. I had the book and we had our curriculum and all that, but I was always reading ahead. I was always looking for more, and I wanted to do more with it. And I started developing a video game in QBasic. And when we did the whole class, the end project is we had to design our own piece of software, or our own project essentially, and it had to meet all of these different requirements and all that stuff. And I was like, you know what, I'm going to design a video game. And I wanted to design a classic RPG. Like, I wanted to do classic role-playing game stuff like that, because I mean, it was very simple. Back in the day, it was all pixelated 8-bit stuff, but it was also, what are the commands? Attack, magic, item, flee. It was just basic. You told it to do it and it did it. It wasn't like nowadays, it's not real-time action or anything like that. So I started doing all of these different things. I did like an opening animation, which I would love to see it nowadays because I'm sure it looks terrible. But back in the day, I was so proud of how it turned out. I'm sure, like, I was super proud of it. But I don't. On kind of to finish the story, I don't even think I finished the project. I think I ran out of time, and all I made was my intro animation video, and it was playable. It had audio. It worked. Everything played out, but it didn't meet any of the requirements for the rest of the project. And I'm pretty sure the teacher still just gave me an A for it just because of all the detail I put into it. So,
Man, that's pretty cool though.
I mean, it was random. Like, I know it's a long-winded story, but like,
Yeah.
I loved it. But the point of all that is this one I'm going to break up into two different sections. But obviously, my biggest inspirations there are Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
I mean, again, you know my obsession with this franchise. I love this franchise. I know you enjoy it too.
Mm-hmm.
But like these games have definitely taken their toll when it comes to my personal inspirations on what I was doing, you know, when I was especially doing that project specifically. But this also got me into my game design degree, like what I wanted to do. When I graduated high school and went to college, it was for reasons like this. But there's one in particular that absolutely stole the show for me when it took inspiration.
Okay.
And it still to this day is one of my biggest inspirations. And I actually made a game and created a storyline. I created art. I drew out characters. I created weapons. Like I actually found the folder of all the work I had put into this game like not too long ago. I was surprised I even had it still.
Mm-hmm.
But everything that came from all that inspiration came from this game right here. And again, I don't feel like that's going to surprise you in any way, shape, or form.
No, because I've heard you sing Chrono Cross's praises, you know, to the moon and back. But
Yeah, this game
Yeah.
is a absolute favorite of mine. I know we're not talking favorites, but like this one has inspired me to a ridiculous degree because I designed a game because of this game. Again,
that's fair.
I have like all the weapons and all the, you know, the world, and I created characters, and this is because of this game. It was the one, I guess it's the one project that I put the most time and investment in because I like I said, I've had a lot of projects. I've dreamed up a lot of things. I've taken notes on a lot of things, but I've never put the time into a project that I did on that one. So that's probably one of my biggest inspirations when it comes to that. So,
Man, it's funny you mentioned, you know, that you had all of this stuff, you know, planned out for it and everything. Because, I mean, well, let me go back to the, you know, the coding and everything like that first. Because, man, in high school, I took a coding class. We used Python. And, man, whenever we were starting out and everything, I was like, I understand this, but it's just not fun.
yeah, yep.
And that was the problem that I had with coding is I was sitting there and I was doing my assignments and I was breezing through them, but I was like, this isn't fun though.
Yep.
I was like, this is a video game.
Yep.
Like,
Nope, because like I said, basic was literally just on a black screen and you just type the code and hit a button and it would run the prompt. And then it was called Visual Basic. Visual Basic was the next step up, but when it went to Visual Basic, I lost interest entirely. So it wasn't for me. But again, yeah, just not a fan of coding.
But that all of that, you know, stuff that you did and everything, man, I have a similar experience actually where I had a whole project planned out and I wish I still had the binder that I had dedicated to this project, but I sadly do not. But it was heavily inspired by Donkey Kong Country before Donkey Kong Country Returns even came out for the Wii.
Okay.
And I wish I still had all the stuff I drew out and planned for that game. I had, you know, everything down to a T, and it is still to this day the project I have put the most work into.
Yep, and it's one of those things. Like I was looking through that folder, and obviously, you know, I'm much older than I was when I did that project, and it's like, oh man, that's so cheesy and corny, and
Oh,
like
dude,
really,
trust me.
Oh yeah,
trust me.
But I was so proud of that project. Like it was something I really wanted to do.
Mhm.
there was a buddy of mine in high school that we were collaborating on it together, and he would be like, we had one class in passing. We would just talk and stuff like that. But he would draw up certain things and he would hand them to me, and then we'd share ideas and collaborate on certain things. So it kind of became more of a passion project for a couple people, but it was just something that never really came to fruition. But like I said, I still have it. I mean, who knows? Maybe one day. I mean, with the way game design is nowadays, it's a lot easier to access. Who knows? Maybe that's something.
That's for sure.
Maybe we can do there. But I've got one more, and I know you've got one more. So what's your last? What's your last one for the take?
Man, so this next one, or this final one, is actually a series, and I have here, let's see, 4 cases for this series.
Okay.
There's more games to this series, though. I just grabbed the first 4 that I saw.
Okay.
But man, so this one has a little bit of a backstory to it. Okay.
Okay.
So at my dad's house growing up, because my parents are divorced and everything. So whenever I went to my dad's on the weekend, he, had a Game Informer subscription. And so, and this actually ties into Metal Gear Solid as well, this story. But I remember there was one issue. It was Game Informer's 200th issue. And they made multiple different covers that were just white, and they had a character from what they deemed, from one of the 200 best games of, I think it was the decade at the time.
Okay.
Or something or just in general. I don't remember. It's been so long, man. But, and mine was, just a white background with Gordon Freeman from Half-Life on the front. But it was a thick issue, man, because they covered 200 of what they deemed the best games, and one of them in there was Metal Gear Solid.
Okay.
And reading that article about the game is actually what made me start looking for this game, and I actually went out to Movies and Trading Company, and this is where I got this from, actually.
Okay.
But another franchise that was in there, and this, reading that article is what inspired me to go out and pick it up. But man, that's going to be God of War.
I had a feeling.
Yeah. So, and I mean, yeah, there's more games to this franchise. Obviously, we're all in the Norse saga right now. I just grabbed the Greek saga because that was my first interaction with God of War, was in the Greek saga, and man, whenever it comes. And you've been hearing me talk about this lately because you and I have both been playing through Black Myth Wukong.
Mm-hmm.
But larger than life boss battles have always been, something that I have loved in video games, but nothing inspired me more than any of these games whenever it comes to larger than life boss battles.
Oh yeah. No, yeah. I think 2018 and Ragnarok really kind of took my breath with those larger than life boss battles. Like those were. Yeah. I like we've talked. I haven't been big on the Greek saga. Like they're good games, but I've never finished them. They've never held my attention. But 2018 and Ragnarok, like I couldn't stop playing those. I had to play more. So.
Oh yeah, no, these are definitely the ones that inspired me for whenever I was working on my projects. They became a lot more, I guess you could say, grandiose, and I really just started putting in the effort of wanting to wow people.
Mm-hmm.
And so that came from this franchise right here, just because I'll never forget my jaw just hitting the floor whenever I booted up my PS2 and started up the first God of War. Sadly, I don't have that copy of that game anymore. And seeing the Hydra pop out from the whole first part of the first God of War,
mm-hmm.
my jaw was on the floor, man, and I stayed up all night playing it. And no joke, the reason I even got a PS3 was just for God of War 3.
There you go. See, I have that same appreciation with the larger than life bosses, but I attribute that more to the Souls-like games. Like that, not the Souls-like, the Souls games, I should say, like Demon Souls.
Yep.
I'll never forget when that game came out. Like, picked up a copy and just put it in my system and saw the dragon just roaring over, and I was like, "Oh my goodness, this is incredible!" So,
man. Let me shout out too real quick, because we're talking about larger than life boss battles, and whenever it comes to larger than life boss battles, this game does not get enough recognition, and it needs a remaster and it needs a sequel. But that is Asura's Wrath.
I never played it.
Oh,
Actually, I remember you talking highly of it. I never
oh
messed with it,
man,
so
you need to try it out. I know you have PlayStation Plus. It's on the catalog. You can stream
okay.
it. Uh, man, that game. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's almost no gameplay to it other than just beating the crap out of bosses. Uh, but man, it is high octane. It is fun. It is nonstop. If you haven't played Asura's Wrath, you definitely need to check it out. Capcom's not doing anybody any favors by gatekeeping on this game, but but apparently, hey, we're getting a new Onimusha.
Mm-hmm.
We're getting Okami 2, or I'm sorry, Okami sequel.
Yep.
Uh, so who knows? Maybe we could get an Asura's Wrath remake or just a port. I really don't care. I just want this game on modern consoles,
I mean,
and I would love a sequel.
well, I mean, they seem to be digging into their old franchises again. Who knows? Maybe we'll finally see that Dino Crisis remaster, or there's some other Capcom games I'd like to see. So
Yeah. So, but yeah, no, just shout out to Asura's Wrath, and then if you want to go on to your last one now, you can go
so
right ahead.
uh, I I feel goofy bringing this one into the mix, but it definitely uh this game, like I know we've talked about doing just favorite games, sentimental games, all that stuff. But those will come in a later date. But this one, there is there has not been a game that I think has just had more of an impact on me, just because of the way the game is. I know it's a weird thing to say because it's just a video game, but man, there is something about this that just kind of opened my eyes to what we can do with video games.
Okay.
And this game has, it's really played a much bigger role just for me overall in my life. I mean, I mean, I've made friends because of this game. I honestly, I met my wife because of this game. Like it's one of those titles that it just, I sing its praises all the time. And I can't, there's not enough good things I could say about it, but it is made by Capcom.
Okay.
So maybe it's one of those random franchises they'll decide to revisit. I don't think it'll ever happen.
Man, I'm just expecting you to hold up a copy of Mega Man, even though I'm pretty sure that's not what it is.
No,
But
and you should already know what it is. But
yeah, I think I have a good idea.
but what this the reason I'm putting this in my inspired pick is because I want to do a game like this with you. We've
Okay.
talked about doing projects and stuff like this. Um, and I think this would be a phenomenal project for us to start. But I am going to throw this into the mix. And you laugh
Yeah,
because
I know.
you know how big of a fan I am of this game.
Yep.
This is probably, like I said, this has been one of the most uh, influential games I've had because, like I said, I've made great friends with this game that I still talk to today. Like I said, there's a story of how I met my wife involving this game. So there's tons of great memories. This is probably one of the funniest games I've ever played, and it's a game that I have played over and over and over, and just every time I've thoroughly enjoyed it. And it's something I would love to play. Like I need to play it again. It's been way too long since I've played this game. But more importantly, it's such a great story for what it is. It's
Hmm.
so enjoyable to watch. They don't take themselves too seriously. They have fun with what they do, and I think those are some of the best stories you can tell because you just enjoy it the entire way through. And I really want to do something like that. I think you and I could come up with a great story when it comes to that, but I
Oh
think
yeah.
we need to do an FMV game. Because it'll be simple. It'd be I say simple, obviously it's going to be a bunch of work, but I think this is
Oh
something
yeah.
we could do. But I think it's something we would enjoy doing, and I would take heavy inspiration from this because, like I said, and I really want you to play this game. You've heard me. I've been hounding you about this game for years.
You're just gonna have to let me borrow it.
I mean,
So
I will. I've got multiple copies of it, man. That's how much I love this game. But
So
this is
that
something.
or I can just pull out the Steam Deck. But
There you go.
yeah.
But this is something like this is definitely an inspiration to me because uh, I think like I know it didn't review well when it came out. Like it wasn't really commercially reviewed well. I you can Google this game nowadays and you see people talking trash on forums and how horrible it was, and it's like, man, I wholeheartedly disagree. And I like if I created a game, if it was even something close to this, I would consider that a complete win in my book. So this is going to be my final pick for sure. And when we do another episode more on sentimental or personal favorites, I'll tell some of those stories that involve this game too. So,
Okay, there we go.
but yeah, that's gonna be my last pick that I've got there. So,
Man, I can just see you like hopping in, like the forums and everything and being like, you don't understand the purpose.
you don't get the game, man.
You don't understand. You have no right to talk about it. Get its name out of your mouth.
Yeah, no, I remember seeing like reviews online and stuff like that, and people would comment on it. They're like, "This game's garbage. It was so bad." Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, I remember I rented that when I was a kid, and it was just a complete shot in the dark. It just looked goofy, and the place I rented it from, it wasn't like a traditional rental store. Like you could rent it, and if you liked it enough, you could just go buy the game. And I remember going
Okay.
back the next day and just like, I want to purchase that game. And
Okay.
I just straight up bought it from the store because I loved it so much, man. It's such a good story, so goofy, and like I said, I really wish. I honestly like. I don't think Capcom would do anything, but I really wish like Limited Run would uh, do it justice and give it a nice remaster, kind of like what they did with Corpse Killer and
Yep.
all the other FMV games that they've been doing. Obviously, Night
Plumbers
Trap
don't
and
wear ties.
yep. Like I wish they
Yep.
would give that game some love because I would
Man,
be
you never
100%.
know.
Yeah, I mean we could be
So,
hopeful. I'll have to
yeah.
tweet out something to I think his name's Josh from Limited Run.
Yeah, I think that's his name.
I think that's right. Yeah, I'll
So,
have to send him a tweet going, "Hey, do me a favor." Says the guy you don't know anything about. So,
hey, I need a huge favor from you, Josh.
but
So
yeah,
I can give you a shout out to all of our viewers that we currently have.
I'll send you a link. I'll send a link in a tweet. So,
Yeah, there we go.
yeah, I'm sure that'll
So,
that'll entice him.
all right, man. Well, before we close out, you have any honorable mentions you want to throw out there, or you have any, last statements you want to say?
And honorable mentions. There was honestly, there's a bunch that I could throw out there for sure. Obviously, like I was gonna include the Souls games, but
Hmm.
I don't. I feel like when I look at those and compare them to other games, like I feel like I have to include more of the Final Fantasy and Chrono Cross because they were there from the beginning. I feel like the Souls games are hugely inspirational, even Elden Ring, but
Hmm.
I feel like those are more just adding on to those fires. The fuel was already the fire was already there to begin with. They're just definitely adding to that fire. But there's that. The Binding of Isaac is one of those where it's like the level of creativity and the synergies with all those items. Like for me, like I really enjoy seeing the possibility of anything. And that's something I've always been fascinated about. Like with Isaac, I think there's over 700 and something items now.
Yeah.
But it's like every item has a synergy with something else. And for me, I could never think of like, I look at that and it's like, there's no way I could think of all those, like that one item working with this item, but doing it with this. And like the level of creativity is like insane. And I wish I
Hmm.
could get to something on that level. So those would be my two honorable mentions when it comes to that.
Well, there you go. There you go. So, all right then. Well, do you have any final statements?
No.
Anything that
Do
you
you have
want to
any?
address
Do
before
you
we
have any
close out?
honorable mentions?
Man, honestly, I actually have it sitting off here to the side right now. Uh, and I already talked about it a little bit earlier. But that would be Donkey Kong Country,
Mm-hmm.
the first one, big one. But not only that, though, if I had to give a second honorable mention, man, that would be Kingdom Hearts 2,
Okay.
specifically Kingdom Hearts 2. So,
I'm actually kind of surprised. I figured that was going to be in your list to begin with.
man, so the thing is as much as I love Kingdom Hearts, I don't know. As I've gotten older, I don't have the patience for it.
Fair.
If that makes sense. Uh, I still love the franchise to death. Any game that comes out, I will pick up. That's a given. But I find myself being a lot less influenced by it just because of how much of a mess it really is under the surface.
Okay.
So, but Kingdom Hearts 2 was a massive inspiration, though. Especially because it's before it started becoming a massive mess and we started getting all these spin-offs. So there was still a small contained story in and of itself at the time in
Yeah.
that franchise. So
Then they
yeah.
started doing,
Oh, and then we
all the
got 300 or 300 and the
358 over 2.
yeah, there we go. 358 over 2, Birth by Sleep, Chain of Memories, Rechain of Memories,
Dream Drop.
Oh god, I hated Dream Drop, dude. Recoded.
Yep.
So yeah, no, now Kingdom Hearts is like I said, I love it still. It's a good franchise, but whenever it comes to inspiration, it's just two, and that is it.
Fair enough. I mean, that's a good shout out. So I mean, I assumed that would be in your initial list to begin with. So
not fair enough.
Cool. But no, I don't think I have anything else I really want to throw out. I do want to just say again, thank you for all y'all hanging out. Don't forget, follow us on Twitter. We're on Blue Sky. We're on Instagram. We're trying to get on TikTok. Obviously we have the YouTube channel. I think we've decided we're going to start uploading these every Friday at noon, unless the time changes, which we'll update you on all our social medias. But more importantly, just follow us on those channels. If there's something you guys want to hear or something you guys want to include on one of our topics, just leave us a comment or shoot us a message. We'd love to get some feedback and see what we can do from there. But that's the only piece I want to throw in, unless you got anything else, Chandler.
Man, I'll say it just because we gotta chill out and do it every time. Like, comment, subscribe. Do us a favor, share us with your family and friends and your enemies. Let everybody know that we are here and that we are doing this, and if that they have interest of the things along this line, to hop on in. Obviously we've done just video game related stuff up to this point, but we do want to talk about other things. We have TV shows that we like, movies that we like, and other stuff that we can hop into and pull from other than just video games. It's just video games has been a massive part of both of our lives for a long time now.
Oh yeah,
so.
And we have to I'm just gonna give a little bit of a tease for now, but we still have to dig into the DBU and all that stuff.
Oh, I know, man. That's gonna be one's gonna be interesting.
That's gonna be a fun episode for sure. So
yeah, I know. But anyway, all right. Well, thank y'all so much for watching as always, and remember to stay uncultured.
Thank you, guys.